Hi guys, this is Joy. I wanted to make a video on some of the things that happen during our spiritual awakening. And if you're on the ascension path, then this video, you've already been through all of these things, and this will be old news for you. So the awakening happens for years. It goes on for years, and then it will merge into the ascension path, part of the process, which comes later, and it's a much deeper part of the process. So this is a video for those coming into a spiritual awakening, and just wanting to know that they're not crazy, and that there are multiple millions of us that have already been through all of these things, and we experience this as normal life now. So one of the first things that happens is we start to question reality, life. Like, what are we doing here? What's the purpose of all of this? Things just stop making sense. And this usually leads to one of the most common signs of a spiritual awakening, which is the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is like depression, but it is much deeper. It can feel almost sometimes like just emptiness, like a void. There's a detachment from things that used to bring us pleasure, people that we used to love. We just can't find our feelings anymore for anything. And so this can be a very difficult time because nothing works anymore the same way that it did, maybe even your whole life. Sometimes this is obvious with careers that you may have worked your entire life and even enjoyed, and all of a sudden you just find, I can't do this anymore. And this can be the same with relationships, where you've been in a long-term relationship, and now you just no longer resonate with that person. Now, this does end, okay? You'll come out of this if you're in the dark night, but this can go on for quite a while. And there really is no way to speed it up. This is all guided and directed by your own soul, your own higher self, which later in this journey, you're going to find out that your whole life has been um, pretty much guided and directed. But we don't know that as humans. We think we're doing all of this, and we're not. But that comes later. So, baby steps. So, the dark night of the soul, many times after the dark night of the soul, people start thinking that they were crazy. So, they go to therapists and get on medication. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. I've done that. And most people on this path that have been awakened over a decade or more, we've all been to the therapist because we really didn't have anybody out there sharing this type of information. So we relied on textbook, which is something that you might find helps you if you're in the dark night of the soul, is spiritual text. You'll be called, you'll be pulled to that. You'll want to know what's going on with yourself after the um, not caring about anything and not being able to feel anything. You won't be able to feel anything during the dark night of the soul. Nothing will matter during those times. But so a lot of people will seek some psychotherapy or medications and things like that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with any of that, because you have your own higher self the whole time. So you're never alone in this. So that's something that you should know. And that brings me to something else that happens. You start hearing voices, right? And one, it is your higher self communicating with you, which has always been there. And as humans that were deeply asleep, we called that our conscience, right? That other voice. But this voice becomes stronger, and you will feel and hear this in your body and through your heart, as if something is speaking to you very clearly, very softly. Higher self is not cruel. Higher self does not um, control or manipulate. It's pure love. So you'll start noticing voices, and then this is where people start to tap into their psychic abilities, their sixth sense that they've always had, and just were too in their head to be able to realize that, oh wow, I do have all these other abilities. And many people will start communicating with beings that are no longer on this side of the veil, people that have passed over, crossed over, I should say, to the other side of the veil. They're very much alive, and many of us get to find that out when we start interacting with those that are no longer here in physical form. And one of the reasons I believe that we have these mediumship type experiences is because we need to know that there's more to this life than what it is. And if you're an intellectual person that is very book smart and in your head, then you need this experience because now you know it's real. Because before that, people can tell you these things and it's not going to really hit home the way your soul needs it to hit home. So you'll have these experiences. We all do. And afterwards, talking to your guides and your higher self, this is 24/7. This is a normal occurrence. But in the beginning, and it's been so many years for me, I mean, my mediumship abilities and things that were awakening with inside of myself, that's 25 years ago. So it's as normal as me talking to a physical being. Um, it's actually changed over the years. But anyway, that's very, very normal. Another thing will be seeing numbers. Okay, you'll start to see double and triple digit numbers everywhere. And these are called angel numbers. But they're also activating your crystalline DNA, double and triple digits. They're activations. And the angel numbers can be multiple different combinations of numbers. You see a lot of 717, 144, 1044, 1144. These are codes. They're awakening codes. 1111 being the most popular and common because that is the awakening code itself. Now, these numbers have all kinds of meanings and all kinds of messages, and you have Google for that. You can do a Google search. And of course, with the internet, you're going to find all kinds of, whatever out there. So you're going to have to be in your heart when you're reading these messages and see what resonates for you and what doesn't. If it doesn't resonate, even whatever anybody says on this path, if it doesn't resonate, then let it go. It doesn't matter. It has to be resonating with what's in your heart. Now make sure you're in your heart and not trying to figure it out in your mind, because nothing about awakening or ascension is a logical process, and you will not understand this from the mind. You just won't. So the numbers. So if you start seeing a certain set of numbers over and over, and when I say you're going to see these all the time, I mean you won't get away from them. They're going to be on the clock, on your video, on the license plate, on the billboards, everywhere. Your receipts, the grocery store, you're going to start seeing them all over the place. And this is activating you. And it's also letting you know, like, okay, something going on here, because there's no way I looked at the clock 10 times and saw 11:11 in a row. You know what I mean? So this is also helping you awaken and expand your consciousness and not think that you really knew anything about life when none of us did. None of us had any clue about any of this. But now we do. So you'll start hearing the guidance also louder, clearer. Now there's times where that goes silent, but that's not in the beginning. In the beginning, your team and your guides are communicating all of the time. Okay, another thing is you start feeling energies. And many people for their whole life have felt them to a certain degree, but just wrote them off as something else. But this becomes obvious after a while. And if you're paying attention, which you have to pay attention to these things as you go on. You take it easy in the beginning, but a lot of people will notice this at the full moon. And many people have known of somebody that works, say, in the medical field, in an emergency room or hospital, and they'll always say how crazy things get at the full moon. Now, full moons can make you really tired and emotional, but the new moons too. So you'll start feeling like, oh, wow, it's a full moon. Wow, I'm feeling this in my body. But then this increases. You'll feel the solar flares, the CMEs, the geomagnetic storms. All of these things we feel, and we feel them all the time, all of the time. So you'll start feeling energies. And I'm not going to go too much into that because that's more um, in the ascension material, because our senses get super heightened um, as we go through this process. But again, this is the very beginning stages of awakening. And I think I said in the beginning of the video, because we are in an accelerated part of globally of people awakening, and that's partially because of the increase of photonic light on the planet. And it also has to do with a lot of us star seeds that have been awake for a very long time, and we're all activating others that we interact with through our eyes, through our voice. These are activations. And then we all, as brothers and sisters on planet Earth, we are all exchanging codes um, for each other, even when we don't realize it. When you're meeting somebody and interacting, the frequencies, the codes are getting transferred, um, activating us, and sometimes triggering us, which um, that's another video. So another thing you might notice is you start getting drawn to spiritual events, even if that's something like yoga. Or a lot of people start out in yoga. They're there. They're not even sure. They think they just want to stretch, but their soul has guided them to yoga or um, crystals or tarot or anything of spiritual nature. So that's not it, because there's a lot of things that happen in this process from the awakening to the ascension journey. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, but I think I mentioned some of the very, very common. These are very, very common. So if you're experiencing any of those, just know you're not alone. You have multiple millions, brothers and sisters out there ready to um, help you, because these things that I mentioned, these are all very common, very normal, and we're all going through this together. So I just wanted to put that out there, um, and I'll make more videos. I tend to talk more about the ascension process because that's where I'm at in my journey. But I wanted to share for those that are going to be new to this. So I send you lots of love. Bye bye.